I'm going to call the meeting to order. We're all here? Yes. Approve the minutes from the previous meetings. There's two, January and February. Has everybody read them?
Indeed.
I did attach them in case somebody hasn't.
Move to approve.
Moved. Second. All in favor?
Who seconded?
Can I second?
I'm just asking who did.
I think I did.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry. New business, update. Any update on the cases from the last meeting in February?
So 17002, they've been in the building department, as far as I understand, the talking to the building department, they're working to have the power shut off. They said that they were not going to be ready for today, that the husband is traveling, and they're not ready yet.
I got a copy of the demolition permit as of 4 o'clock this afternoon.
Is that
And
the checklist?
this is the checklist, 22 items on the checklist, and 6 have been completed. So
And
there's,
some of those have been completed for quite a while.
and these are the same check marks that have been there, you're right, for quite some time.
I guess you told the building department that a demo company has not been picked out yet, but they're still working on that, which I think is different than what was said at the last meeting.
The letter that was sent to them afterwards, was that just repetitive to what we'd sent before? Does it have the dates on it to cure?
That would be my letter.
Fully
Yeah.
abated by April 5th, 2019.
So if they haven't pulled a permit by now, there's no way that's going to happen. But they've received this letter.
This one, yes.
What was the one, Liz, that you said that they should?
Well, the draft that I circulated, that I had assumed had been sent out, was pursuant to that meeting, and then declared that by today's date, the 20th of March, that they would present a fully executed demolition permit as well as a demolition contractor contract in place.
And the
As
other
well
letter
as-
doesn't say that.
No, it
Okay,
doesn't.
okay.
Doesn't have that date.
Okay.
And it also said that, you know, the application for demolition would be complete and in the hands of building department. So obviously that hasn't happened.
So is the issue, Liz, that we still haven't given the property owner a specific date? Because
I think
We
we
have-
have in that letter, we've given them a date.
well, the property owner claims that in the copy that we saw, that
But
date was.
then another one
No,
was
there
sent out
was there was a
after.
corrected
There was a
letter sent
corrected
out.
one
Okay,
sent
so
out.
it
Yeah.
was, okay.
Yeah.
The day
Yes,
after.
this letter.
Right.
The day
Right.
after.
That evening, I went back and.
I remember you
read
seeing
that.
it. I thought we
Yeah.
were saying that inadvertently didn't go out.
No.
But it did go out, okay.
So basically,
The one that Liz has, that went out that next day.
Okay,
so
okay.
the due date on this is April 5th. So if the issues haven't been resolved by April 5th, it's my understanding that we then are within our purview to start to fine
Yeah.
Okay.
the homeowner.
I think we made that fairly clear in the last meeting, right?
And I think your email the next day, I assumed it was something, Nick, you would send out, and maybe he assumed it was something we would send out?
Again, I thought it was a letter for everybody to look at.
No,
is what we agreed upon. I know because you had emailed me several days later asking if that had gone out, and I said, not to my knowledge.
I think I was thinking that, make sure we change the date when that was.
This
the
one,
That
yes,
one, I wanted
this
to make
one.
sure went out. Okay.
I sat here after the meeting and got this one done in envelope and certified mail and stuff.
Yeah, I think that was the important one. And I think she knew that was coming, or they knew that was coming. But we have the date, they have the date, so that's,
And it's April 5th, we said.
Yeah.
and is now where a time we would vote to someone
going
would
to
be
con-
fined, or,
Are we going to continue to review them and then
I
discuss
think,
remedies?
yeah,
At the end?
okay.
Mark, what do you
Yeah.
think?
I think that would work, yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Nick, the,
17-005. The only update that I have on that is from one of the complainants about that property, pretty much making a statement that what the gentleman described to us and explained to us was a bunch of lies.
Well, you were going to meet him at the property?
We have not done that yet.
This is 72, not
Number 7, yes.
72, yeah.
72?
Correct.
Okay. And you have not met him at the property?
Mario and I have not met at the
Okay, because one of the options that he, quote, agreed to was, since he's in that business anyway, as an interim solution would be to put up a fence
Somehow screen that.
and to screen it.
Screen that side.
And you and he were to meet on the property to discuss that and review the options around the fence.
Right, we have not met yet.
Okay.
Have you been in contact with them?
No, not yet.
Can you make that a kind of a priority?
Call them on
thing, just to
Friday.
Call them and see if you can get up there.
Sure.
It seems like a fairly easy fix if you can do something like that.
Well, it's only getting worse if you drive by it. There's now a bathtub, stacks and stacks of debris, lots of, I think, 2 cars with no license plates are sitting there.
That's new.
I mean, it's,
That's,
Is that new? No?
there's an Audi station wagon with no plates, and I'm not sure what the other car, I mean, I drive by that every day, 100 times. And,
I heard it all belongs to him, not the tenant. Have you heard any different? I haven't heard anything. That it does belong to him.
Well, again,
To the landlord.
at this point
Yeah.
in time, given the discussion we had before, who cares who it belongs to?
Yeah, it doesn't
The
matter.
point of fact is, it's a blight condition, it meets all the criteria for it, it has consistently, and it is his responsibility as owner of the property. I don't care who's living in it. At this point in time, it's not material to the issue. And and even building the fence, I don't know if that's a satisfactory solution. All it is cosmetic. It does in fact block the blight from the road, you can't see it if it
from the
happens.
front, but what about the side neighbors who have to,
But that's
continue to see it?
That's the whole
Yeah.
issue, and the problem is, he has got to take ownership and accountability for it, and he hasn't done that, and he's received the letter.
Yeah, I think it's time.
Yeah, I agree.
We can't hold, they're not even tenants, they're living there for free. And the only issue I have there is to make sure that social services is interacting with them, because we don't want to put her and the 2 kids out on the street as a result of, the blight condition. And I think we just have to make sure that that's not the case, and I think we know it's not the case.
Mhm.
Ally's visited, so you know, I just don't I don't think there's an issue. I think
I agree.
he's the owner. It's his responsibility to take care of the property. Basically, he didn't deny the blight conditions. I went back and looked at the video, and he did not deny the blight conditions.
He kind of denied responsibility.
Oh, not kind of, he absolutely denied responsibility, but the fact that he.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I think you bring up a great point, though, is that there's a very sensitive tenant
Yes.
issue here, and perhaps, Nick, if you do go out there, can you bring Ally and just make sure that there's no issues around? What I hate to have happen is have him punish that sensitive situation.
Yeah. I don't think he's going, from listening to it.
It doesn't sound like it, but.
Yeah, I mean, he's doing them a huge favor by letting them
I-
live
I
there for
completely
free.
agree.
The fact of the matter is, he's the one that's responsible for the property's condition. And in all due respect to his, quote, advice from his friend lawyer that he can't touch any of that stuff, well, you know, somebody needs to.
And we don't know what facts, I mean, that's his side of the story, there's two sides to the story, so we don't know necessarily, that the rent isn't being paid, but he has not started an eviction process, so.
Well,
He hasn't. Okay.
But-
It's
but
on
to
the
me-
record, and- yeah.
But to me, that's a non-issue still.
Right.
I don't care if she's a rent-paying tenant. The fact of the matter is, it states clearly that the responsibility is the owner of the property, period. And, you know,
I agree, I agree.
so the action on that is,
I'm gonna schedule a meeting with him and Ally to go out there to the property.
and
We
what's,
meet with the tenant and with the landlord, right?
Tenant,
The four of
landlord.
us, and
and,
one last try, is that it? Or what's the
Yeah,
plan?
yeah,
well,
yeah.
okay.
We've made multiple tries to try to get there.
All right.
And Nick, obviously just kind of not push, but, urge that if there's a screening solution to that, that's simple and can satisfy both the road, the facing the road
And
and the adjacent neighbors.
Well, here's the thing, we sent a letter in January, and we gave them a date certain, which was to be fully abated by the 27th of March. So what's the date today, 21st?
Yeah.
Okay, we have 6 days, so it would be my recommendation that before the end of this week, you and Ally get over there, make one last lay eyes on the situation, and if in fact there's nothing that is going to be resolved, I mean, I just think we have to pull the trigger on the 27th of March. I mean, we can't keep rolling these forward month after month, because
We
it's
can't
sensitive.
get different
and we-
stories,
And we have
different
to,
stories
we have
each
to
time.
treat everybody fairly, and I think we've been over backwards to help this Lord and the situation he's dealing with there, but otherwise, the ordinance has absolutely no impact if we don't actually utilize the punitive measures we have at our disposal. And I think the time has come to do that. That's my opinion.
I think when you meet with him, you need to tell him that either significant progress begins immediately, or the date is the date certain that's in the letter to him. So March 27th is.
Yeah, I'll call him on Friday and see when we can schedule a time that.
But he can't go, he needs to understand if there's some reason he can't meet with us, with you, and there's any issues like that, he needs to understand that March 27th is a date certain that he is aware of. He received the letter,
That's next Wednesday.
so, the quicker you can get
If
in
you want,
touch
I
with
can
him.
call both the landlord and the tenant and see if they can do it Friday morning.
Sure.
She works in the afternoons.
Sure.
But I mean, what are they gonna say?
Well, then they have the weekend,
Well,
right, to
Okay,
make
good
the
point.
last.
I mean, they've had a lot of
Just to be
time,
clear,
I know.
three,
but to
four.
have one more weekend
Yeah.
And then maybe tell both
Yeah.
sides, just make sure both sides realize that there can be fines in the beginning next week.
Well, both sides are, he's the only one that's gonna be fined.
But he could then take measures somehow, who knows what he might do. to
Well,
harass the
yeah,
landlord.
I'm just saying that
Right.
the only
Technically,
fines that
to him.
will occur will go to him as the owner of the property.
Yep.
Period. I mean, we have no authority to fine somebody that is just living on the property and doesn't own it. It's just, we have no authority to do that. So, all right. Nick, will you follow up with all of us, email us and let us know if you've been able to meet?
Yep.
And also on anything different on the first case we were talking about too, if anything changes there. 18-004.
Yeah.
He has submitted paperwork to planning and zoning for a permit. Paperwork is incomplete. So they have, I know he's been in the building almost every day since the last meeting. I know there's been discussions with upstairs, and
I
I
gave
think he
everybody a
hasn't done
copy of
any.
the email.
he hasn't done anything.
Well, except for apply for a permit, which he hadn't done until.
Right.
But the application is not complete, so
He knows, yep. He was in my office. I told him that the application was not complete, and he said he was gonna go up there and deal with it. As far as I know, it's still incomplete.
Well, we need to follow up on that immediately also. We need to know, has he taken the next step? Has he interacted with P&Z, and what's the likelihood of him getting that permit?
And I encourage Jeremy at P&Z to be very specific about what is incomplete about the application. So there's no ambiguity about, like, oh, I didn't know it was incomplete, they never told me. He can never say that. I wanted Jeremy to say, thank you for the permit, these are the following things are incomplete, we're kicking it back to you.
The vast majority of the items in this letter do not require a building permit.
That's correct.
4 of the 5 items on here has been brought to our attention, he can take care of himself. He doesn't require a permit. And if in fact he did that, he would only have one blight condition, and then it's not even blight. So I think at this point, it's time to put a date certain on a subsequent letter and let him know that there's a deadline. We haven't given him a date certain for this property, and I think it's time to do that.
Well, the votes keep multiplying, at least
It's getting
at
worse
least it looks like
by
it.
the minute.
It is.
Because I drive by there regularly just to see if there's been any progress at all. And that condition has, now, he could close, he's got that big open, he could put a fence up and you couldn't see it, but at the end of the day, I don't think that's in the spirit of.
And again, it doesn't help his neighbors in the rear.
Right.
I mean, it's clearly visible from a second floor window, even though you might not see it when you're driving by in a car. And this case did not, as I said earlier, it didn't say if violations, they have to be fully abated by fill in the date. I think that's the next step here.
Well, he's had his appeal,
Yeah,
okay, so,
that's it. The letter has a cure date, and that's it.
Right, so my suggestion would be that as a follow-up action item to this, we would generate a letter with a date
yeah.
and encouraging him to do those things that can be done without a permit, and hope that,
Is there something
he's
we
going to
can
go
put-
forward in good faith on the permit.
Well, that's, yeah, I was gonna say that we could put something in there that says, the last remaining item, which does require a permit for remediation, the board will obviously work in good faith if that permit is both, filed and with the town. It might take a little bit, but does that make sense, Liz?
I think so, but,
Could we date certain meeting from today
30 days from today.
or tomorrow, since it's after 5 o'clock? 30 days from tomorrow.
Or should it be our next scheduled meeting, May 8th?
That's a good idea. That's a good idea. And
To have it made.
Why?
They don't have an April meeting?
We do have an April meeting.
We're supposed to be 30 days, but I don't see why we can't,
April meeting would be 30 days.
Well, I don't object to that
April is
if you
the
think that's
10th.
the way to go. But I think we need to have
Is
it
it the 10th?
Yeah.
a date.
Yeah, but it's,
Wait, April 10th is not 30 days.
Right,
that's,
No, that's
That's
not
not
next
going to
meeting.
the May.
yeah, to the next
May.
May meeting
I think it's
is.
the 8th.
It's the 8th.
Well, if we gave 30 days, it would be, let's say, April 22nd, which is a Monday. And then rolling into the May meeting, we would know.
Yeah.
But if you want to be generous and give a little bit more time, then.
We're not gonna do anything about it until May 8th anyway,
Yeah.
so why don't you just make it May 8th?
Okay, so through May 8th.
Could you, Nick, do a letter citing the same violations that we had in the original letter, but put the cure date in as what do we have, May 8th?
Well, before May 8th, how about that?
Before May 8th, right.
well,
Well, you have to
I
say,
mean, there has to be a
There has to be a date. So May.
fully
We have to
abated
give you a
by
date, but what-
May 8th.
We,
May 7th, because we meet on the.
Okay.
Right.
At 7,
Yeah.
yeah.
or 5th, or, but whatever, but enough time
So it's the
to
same
realize what has or
letter.
hasn't been done before we meet,
Yeah,
that's all.
And Nick, you just want to circulate that amongst the board members before you go out, because I think we want to add a little piece about the building permit. Cool.
And let's have a, just procedurally, so that we don't have happen what happened with that secondary letter that did not go out. If you, as chairperson, want to,
I'll follow up with Nick. Will,
do you want, maybe it.
I'll get it,
has
we
to
can
be physically
circulate it.
sent by you to make sure it goes, or?
Well, I think Nick can send it, but I think what Kevin was saying, that we want to review it and add some things to it. After we do that, maybe I can bring it to Nick and say, send this registered letter by when? It has to go out by, when does it have to go out if that's 30 days?
It would have to go out by
April.
April 7th.
7th.
Yeah.
Say the 5th.
Okay.
Yeah, we got-
So we've got some time to do that. So we'll do the letter, circulate it with all of us. Maybe we can add what we want to add in it. And then we can circulate it and see if we get your approval, everybody's approval.
I think it might be helpful for everybody, if you haven't already, to go back and review the video. Because what I want to make sure happens is that we stay focused on only the issues that have to do with this citation. And I want to make sure that anything we send him is strictly around that citation and those issues. There's no reason other than the issue around talking about the permit. That's fine. But at the end of the day, that has, again, nothing to do other than it is a blight condition. So, because if you noticed, one of the things he later commented was that we directed him to get a permit, and we didn't direct him.
No, we do not.
No.
We told him
yeah.
that was
Yeah.
a potential solution and that he needed to do that under any circumstances. So, this has got to be very tight and it's got to be specific and we need to get it done.
Well, and maybe, keeping it very direct in what our purpose is
Well,
instead of,
We don't have to go outside.
Yeah, I
of
agree.
Any
I
of the
agree.
conditions that are cited, it qualifies as blight by those conditions. As far as I can tell, other than the discussion we had about his view about weeds and stuff, I didn't think he really disputed any of the
no.
conditions. So.
No, except he did allude to the fact that things could get worse before they got better, something to that effect.
Mhm.
And so it could be a fluid situation where there could be additional things that aren't even in this original
Well,
letter, so.
yeah, but right now, again, I don't think we ought to wander off on any of that stuff. We need to be specific. We have the conditions. We know what the violation is. He knows what the violation is, and that needs to be focused on getting fixed.
What he doesn't know is the date.
Yeah, exactly. So now he will have all of the pieces together. He'll know the date certain when we expect abatement.
Well, and maybe we shouldn't deviate from this violation, the letter, too much, because we want everybody to know
No,
they get
I
the
don't
same
think we're
letter.
deviating.
We're not, I don't want to deviate at all.
Yeah, yeah.
Other than
We
if
just-
you want to mention in there say something about the permit, that's fine,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, I agree.
It would, at least it would represent an effort if in fact he had the permit, but beyond that, and again, that's only one of the conditions.
We could even point out we were just trying to be helpful and we should just.
We'll work on it, right? Nick, you want to send it to me and I'll help you take a first crack at it? And this is something we would send to Wayne and Kate before it
Yeah.
went out?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And of course, it goes without saying, I mean, we have extended help to other homeowners in town who need some assistance, a truck or a this or a that. And if that's a need, then, I think we would provide it,
Of course.
trying to get over the finish line, if that's a need.
And certainly I'd be happy to meet with the resident and discuss the need. And if there's a need.
Have you been out there? You haven't been out there yet, or you have?
Well,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
For many years. But I had no contact.
Okay.
So are there any new cases that, other than these ongoing ones, any new ones?
We've got, there's been 4 new ones, 2 of them which are not blight, the other 2 are on the watch list. One seems to be a dispute between 2 sides. And then we have another property that was on the watch list that is now moved to active, but it's a potential hoarding case.
Which one's that?
Do we have, are they on our list?
No, I'll email you a new copy of the list with everything updated.
This is another hoarding.
Yeah, this would be another one. And that is number 18-008.
Oh, so it's one that it's been on the list for a little while.
It was on the watch list.
Yeah, okay.
So we're crossing the threshold now?
Yeah, because of the potential.
Okay, okay.
Again, we need to get an updated list of this.
I'll email it out to everybody on Friday.
Because you can put hoarding on the comments, that'll be the.
I literally did that while we were in the
Okay.
office.
Because that's the first,
Downstairs a little while
yeah,
ago.
that's the 4th hurt. 3rd.
Will you go out to this? Have you been out there already?
This just came to our attention yesterday, and Bobby Bush and I have been working on it since yesterday, so we will certainly follow up. What we do with all the attention.
Family, elderly?
Elderly.
Elderly, no. We really.
Excuse me, Holly, I have another meeting, I gotta go.
Okay.
Do they
You still have quorum,
if
right?
he leaves?
I think all the members are.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
sorry,
Thanks.
my regrets. We rescheduled this meeting for today. my other committee scheduled, rescheduled their meeting for today.
Aha,
First day of spring.
yes.
Thanks, Warren.
So that's the only one that now has moved into Blight with hoarding.
No,
The other ones haven't.
I'm not
It's
sure,
moving to an active status.
but it's totally out of the blight category once it becomes hoarding. That's got to be dealt with other parts of the town have to deal with.
Yeah,
More
but
complicated.
it's more complicated, but it has Blight.
Well, it's no
I-
different than
yeah.
Camp Avenue, okay? I mean,
Yeah.
that's classic, but, yeah, I mean, it can ultimately be blight, but you have to assume that for that to happen, all of the issues around hoarding would have to have been taken care of. Because there's all kinds of health issues and other things associated with that that are well beyond just having boats and weeds
Well,
and stuff.
I look at the other cases, some of the ones we're talking about, they're hoarding too. That's a hoard, that's hoarding. Hoarding is,
Hoarding is inside of the house.
yeah, but I
Blight is
think
outside.
I think Little Brook is Blight.
Well, hoarding can be outside too, I should
Yeah.
correct that, but
Yeah.
blight would only be on the outside.
Yeah, isn't Blight just on, it's just on the
Outside,
outside?
you have
Yeah.
to, yeah.
Would you consider that property blighted? Just the way it is, if you weren't even inside?
Before today, I would say I thought it was borderline, which is why it was on my watch list.
Okay. So that's all any active cases, that's it?
It's all out.
So you'll send us an updated list. Are there any other changes in status,
No.
things that are watch list remain on the watch list?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the general trend that those things on the watch list are even steady state, getting worse, getting better, or just not really.
What are we watching for?
To see if they get worse.
So just that one you think is starting to cross the threshold?
It crosses because of the possibility
Okay.
of another issue.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
All right.
Okay, so that's all of that. We're gonna need a new secretary, because Jim
Yes, we are. Please.
does not want to be the secretary. Do we have any volunteers? Mark left before I could bring this up.
I doubt it wants to be there.
And I'm going to be cycling off the committee. I've been functioning as the RTM representative for the past 2 years, and I think there are a number of people on the RTM who are interested in serving and were when I was elected to this slot. So I let the moderator know last month that I'd stay until they have a new person in place. And the RTM meeting for March was canceled, so the next RTM meeting is in April. And at that time, it is on the agenda to elect a new RTM representative to this review board. So I'll stay in place until that person comes on board.
You said that's April,
The meeting is in April.
so
Yeah.
maybe May we'll get a new.
Yeah, unless the meeting is before
Right.
the 8th of May, but I don't think it is.
Let me ask you a question. Are you intending to stay on as chair?
I am not. I like your word, cycling out of being chairman. Our term is 2 years, and I think both Liz and I are at the end of that time. I'll stay on, but we do need a new chairman until my term is ended.
So when are you done?
I didn't see the date, so I wasn't quite sure. I think Liz and I were talking about it today, When do we think it is? In April, was it?
Well, gosh, I think we were constituted in June, wasn't we? Come together in June of 17. So it would make sense that June of 19 would be your
June
full,
of 19.
something like
Would be
that.
the end.
So,
Chairman's up for,
would anybody here be interested in serving as chair?
Well, I guess the question is, do we need to make this decision now?
Well,
If you want to know, I just found an old, it's March 29th, 2017 is when you were elected.
oh, see, it has been 2 years.
But then I don't forget that.
I mean, I think I can speak for Liz too, we'll stay through the next meeting or two.
Well,
But-
I would love to just get the new people in here and have them, I mean, I'm happy to help out in any capacity. However, I'm already a chair and a secretary on another commission and board.
Do you think there's anybody from our human services that would want to serve?
Not that I know of. I brought it up at the last meeting and
No one.
showed any interest. So it's going to be a challenge.
Well,
And our-
maybe
our
somebody
meeting-
watching today will want to.
Yeah.
And our commission is only 7 people and we're down to 5, so there's not like there's that many options.
But you're right, we don't have to decide on that particular position, and whomever is going to be a part of the board may be happy to step forward and function as chair.
Jim, when are you going to roll off?
I had no plans to roll off. I-
Just
you just wanna
didn't
give
want
up.
to be secretary.
How about I'll make you this deal.
Yeah.
If you're going to stay for another month or two, I'm happy to help out as secretary, right? And then can we vote again in 2 months?
Well, I'll do secretary for,
And I'm happy to help you.
yeah, I'm just, you know,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it feels like it's time to like refresh and have a whole new structure with, and then Jim can get away from being
okay.
the secretary.
You've been a great secretary, though.
Well, that's.
And thank you for
That's
doing
hard
that.
to believe.
It's all like always having homework.
I mean, I would be willing to be chair if either somebody from RTM, because I was hoping you were going to be interested in being chair. But I would be willing to do it if there's not, if we don't bring some new blood on that, we'd be interested in it.
Okay. How about I make a motion to have Jim and Holly remain as chair and secretary on a month-to-month basis, starting
Till June.
until June. And then we'll hold new elections.
I second that.
All in favor?
I'm not sure I can vote.
I can't either, yeah. Okay.
Makes sense.
Okay. All right, so till June?
Yeah.
All right, so I'll put that in minutes as.
We were going to go, I was going to make a motion to go into executive session.
Chris just came in.
I'd like to speak for a second, if I could.
Sure
Okay,
thing.
we're just going to have to keep it at a
I'm going to keep
10-minute,
it as quickly as possible.
10-minute time frame.
I'm not being honest. Okay, for the record, I'm Chris No, 242 Old Kings Highway South, Darien. Last time I saw you guys was 3 weeks ago, and I was ordered to refile plans for my house to try to resolve the stalemate that I've had for 25 years. I dropped the elaborate plan that I call the American Dream, which was taking a salt house and building a big barn structure, which allowed about 2,500 square feet. The house is 880 square feet now. So I've dropped that, and I'm just going to try to finish the back porch, which is 10 by 20, with some interior space. And then, because I was going to abandon that, well, what I did was I looked and I found there were three additions that were approved. David Keating's signature on my street, and they're all very small, so it doesn't seem that I'll get to build the big one. So anyhow, so it was to go to, try to approve just the back porch and then subdivide the property. Because it's a big piece of property. Now, I'm short a little bit of property for proper subdivision. I can try to take some surrounding property through adverse possession, which, I don't want to do. But I hope that I can carve off a 1/3 acre lot.
What about, Chris, can I just interrupt
Sure.
you for a minute?
Yes.
There was a list of items that are considered blight on
Yes.
your property.
Right.
That you can take care of without a building permit, without going to the town hall for anything. That this is something that you could take care of,
That's
or
correct.
if you needed some help
I do need
from,
help. Well, yeah, I do need help.
to remove things off the property. We've helped other people, and we certainly would reach out to you too, to assist in removing some of the items that are on the property that are causing the blight.
Yeah, well, there's, as much as it's removing property, the back of my house is totally barbecued, and I can't get the permit to fix that.
But that's only one of the
That's-
five.
I know, that's one of the many things. The next thing is that, staff, planning and zoning chief, Jeremy Ginsburg told me that my house needs to be torn down or moved or removed. And he said that to me 5 or 6 years ago when I was trying to get resolved to something that, where I can move forward. So that's some toothpaste that came out of the tube that's really hard to put back in. So I'm dealing with a man that, really any application, anything that I bring forward to save the old house.
But that again that's building on your property. Taking
No,
care of the
that-
blighted items are things you can do without going to the building department for.
Right, so what is that?
The list of items there's
Persistent garbage, trash, construction
There-
debris,
No.
inoperable motor vehicles and mechanical equipment.
There's not construction debris on the property, there's not a, I guess, someone else would look at it and say, well, this is a bunch of garbage. I mean, I've got a boat hobby, which is visible. And with that, I have boats and I have engines and boat parts and anchors and all that kind of stuff that comes along with.
But all
boats.
that is in the list of items that need to be taken care of that
Well,
are
I
blighted.
didn't see anything that was identified as a boat on the list, but I saw piles of debris. I really don't have piles of debris. I have a wood pile. I've kept that kind of pretty. I made a wooden wood stove to kind of adorn the end of it, so it's kind of comical. But it's.
Nick, Mr. Nim, can I suggest that you and the blight officer schedule a time so Nick can point to whatever we're listing in here and saying, this is specifically what we were referring to in point number 1, point number 2, point number 3, and we know that point number 5 is your back porch, which is going to need, but I think there are 4 or 5 bullets that you need to be Nick, we need to be very specific about. This is on the list because it is this, right? We can refer you to the blight ordinance, right?
I've read it.
And can we do that? Because that, I think, then we'll be very clear on 5 of those items, knowing that the 6th, it is going to require a building permit.
I get that. Okay, so when I left here 3 weeks ago, you told me to file permits. I did.
We suggested that you file a building permit for one of those pieces, yes.
Well, I filed 3 permits. I heard Dr. Jeremy Ginsburg. He said perhaps I don't need an environmental permit, but I do need to talk to planning and zoning, and I do need to talk to a zoning board of appeals. So that comes down to filing these things. They require fees. Now, I got a little problem paying fees to the town of Darien. Not that I have a problem paying fees, but the last application that I put together, I forgot which board it was, but it took a year to complete. I supplied, obviously, the fees and everything they wanted for all meetings, monthly meetings for a year. And at the end of the year, they decided that they were not going to make a decision. This was with Dave Keating and staff. So I did everything that was expected of a normal person.
Chris, we can't go back in the past.
Yeah, I
We're
know, but see,
talking
but
about
see-
what we need to do now.
I get it.
And it's important to address what's on the property now, not what happened to you before. And there's a lot of people here that, can assist you in,
I don't see it happening, okay? So it's not that I'm using the garbage that you call garbage on my property. I don't like garbage. I don't even like a shard of glass.
well, you know what?
okay?
Nick will go over and he'll point out
Mhm.
what needs to be
What we identified as blight conditions.
identified as blight, and so you'll know exactly what needs to be
No, there were
changed on the
supposedly
property.
pictures provided. All these things that I got from the town said that there was pictures, see attached pictures, and there's never been attached pictures, so I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Okay, well, we'll solve that issue.
Yes.
Okay, so with the blight, okay, here's the next thing. I've got a commitment, I need to be out of town for probably 2 months. So I'm probably gonna be leaving,
Well, that's going to be a problem because,
Yeah, But I'm
you
leaving.
came to our attention in March of 18. You've been getting letters since March of 18.
That's
It's
correct.
now a year later. And, the timeline is such that a date certain has been established at this point, Mr. No, for your property, which is, based on the conversation we had today, is going to be the first week in May. And that's when,
and what's that date?
the date was May 7th. So,
May 7th.
between now and May
that's what-
7th, if we can address the issues that are in the letters that you've been receiving, then,
I
we
don't, okay, well, Nick's coming around. Okay, so here's the thing. I've asked the selectmen to preside the fees. I didn't hear anything from them. I sent a letter an email to Holly Hawes, an email that I found on the National Whiteboard. And I don't know if you got that.
I
but
did.
Thank you. I got no response from you, so I didn't know what you did. Asking someone to set aside the fees, and, I don't know if anyone's going to do that,
These are fees for a building permit, not fees for other items that need to be addressed. So Nick is
We'll work with
gonna,
you on that, I'm sure
yeah,
we can.
we'll find a time that you can start with that.
Yeah, I would
I've
focus.
already started on that, okay?
Mr. No, I think we should focus on Nick pointing out the specific things. Let's focus on those things. I think there's some discussions about the fees, but Holly,
I have 10 minutes, is up.
I gotta run in 10 minutes, like I got a hard
And-
stop, and
yeah.
we need to go
We
into an
need-
executive session.
So we hear you, Nick will be in touch, and we're gonna go into executive session.
Okay, I understand. So if I leave I might take more work in Nashville. How do you want to see the house before I leave? What do you want it to look like before I leave?
You're responsible for your property, and you'll hear from Nick, but we have to.
That's the point.
Why don't we set up a time right now, Nick, when you can meet?
Nick can identify, there's 5 items total. And only one of them involves permit. The other 4 have no permitting requirements, and there's no fees associated with any of the others. So basically, it's, and again, I know you dispute the definition, but persistent and excessive amount of garbage, trash, or construction debris on the property. Nick and you can view the property, and Nick can tell you why he believes that that's the case. Inoperative or unregistered motor vehicles or mechanical equipment parked, kept, or stored on the premises unless garaged or appropriately
Covered, you want tarps to remember stuff. I got plenty of tarps, I can cover stuff. I don't think that really solves the problem. The biggest hurdle is trying to get a permit.
That's a
That's your
hurdle.
hurdle.
You don't have to
That's-
have one.
Yeah, that's,
one of the 5 conditions, okay? That's one of the 5 conditions. And to be honest with you, the Blight Review Board, all we did was recommend that you pursue getting the permit if that's a problem for you. But at the end of the day, the Blight Review Board has no oversight whatsoever on permits, and at the end of the day, really no interest in permits. It's correcting the issues that the Blight Code cites.
Well, the back of my house is burnt, I can't fix that.
Okay,
Okay.
Nick,
Unless I decide to just fix it.
we need
without a
to,
permit.
stop and go into
Yeah, we got-
executive
we got-
session, which means.
We apologize for cutting you
Thank
off. I move to go into executive session.
Second.
Chris,
Second.
I'll go
Okay,
to
right.
TV 79.
Who's saying?
We're back.
We're back. Television 79. I make a motion that we send letters to all 3 properties that they have been cited with
That
blight.
we've made a finding
A finding.
that blight conditions exist
Exist.
on the following 3
Ah.
cases. Case number 17-002, 17-005, 18-004, and we send a letter to those property owners with the finding that there's blight condition exists at those locations with a remediation date of
May 7th.
May 7th.
And if not, citations and penalties will be imposed.
And if not, citations and penalties will be imposed.
Yeah.
Non-negotiable.
Okay, I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Fine.
Okay.
That's it. Adjourn?
I'm sorry.
It's okay, I'm glad you took over.
Motion to adjourn.
Speedy talking.
Can you possibly write that motion